So first up, we're going to be checking out Duel of the Fates from Seals Are Good, part of the Anakin Shrugged series, also known as Darth Plagueis the Wise. Or, sorry, Anakin has a doctorate in Darth Plagueis the Wise. Do I know what's going to happen here? Well, either Seals Are Good is going to take a completely random detour and just put in a music number. Not the first time I've actually seen that happen. Just, it would be weird if it happened again. Or we're going to get some really interesting bullshit that just is incredibly accurate to philosophy and actual inside the universe lore of Star Wars, but at the same time plays it up in such a way where you see it's actually kind of ridiculous by overanalyzing it, but somehow also completely accurately analyzing it. It's what I'm here for, honestly, so I want to see more. Let's do it. Oh, I've actually heard this rendition of Duel of the Fates before. It's like an epic version of it for metal.
What you're both thinking, you know.
That we're amazed that at last the Sith have...
thinking, wow, what a cool guy that handsome gentleman in black is.
You know, that is literally what every other person thought. It's why Maul became one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. And managed to survive everyone hating him and then coming back to loving him again and then going into multiple TV shows for over a decade before they finally definitively killed him off. For now. He's not wrong.
Doubtless you're thinking Willikers.
I would never think Willikers.
Of course, because you're too busy thinking, gee whiz.
I wouldn't think that either.
You would.
Naturally, the thought clogging your brain tubes is force above.
There's no need for cursing.
That gentleman with the tasteful facial tattoos sure looked cool
tattoos?
AF revealing himself. Especially with the cool pose and switching on his lightsaber one blade at a time, revealing a whole new concept for a lightsaber.
A dual blade isn't that impressive.
But hypothetically,
Oh yeah, because that was the first time they showed anything in a Star Wars movie other than a standard one-sided blade. And it was done in a really interesting reveal. Yeah, that makes sense in hindsight. I saw this as a child in the theaters. I'm like, this is awesome! So it never actually occurred to me that, oh yeah, this is the first time we're seeing anything other than a normal lightsaber. Huh.
you don't need to just think that. You could verbalize it too.
He's fishing for compliments.
Why are you just talking?
A compliment wouldn't go amiss. Men don't compliment each other nearly enough, I've found. So why not be the change the galaxy needs to see? Why not...
Honestly, dude, Obi-Wan was part of a change for the galaxy, and it was not the right one.
throw a compliment or two my way?
Is Qui-Gon going to do it and no one understand it? Please, please.
I can see you two fine gentlemen are reticent, so I'm happy to kick things off. The robes the two of you wear are most flattering, making you look humble, but also ready for action, as a Jedi should be. The pair of you are clearly paragons of your order.
Considering everything about Obi-Wan, specifically in the Seals Are Good version, oh boy, is that wrong. Although considering the Seals Are Good version includes Yoda, oh boy, is that right. Yeah.
Well, seriously, I mean, it's a single stillman as yourself. I can tell that even though you're set, you're clearly someone who's always discourse and takes it and looks softly. But then, man, you'd like to take the time to compliment your chivalry.
Yeah, I know Liam Neeson is Irish or Scottish, and one of those is definitely what he just said.
I must say,
Should be.
Okay, let's see if I can actually get that.
You are clearly paragons of your order.
I must say, I mean, it's a single stillman as yourself. I can tell that even
I say something yourself, I could tell that even though you're clear someone who follows the desk and takes a look sly, but then maybe like a turn to compliment your children.
Apologies, friend. I'm not sure I quite caught that. But from your tone, I take it that it was a compliment.
Of course it was a compliment.
Wonderful.
If you find...
Oh god damn it, why is Obi... Oh god, it's Obi-Wan being Obi-Wan. Of course it's Obi-Wan. God damn it, Obi.
being considered spineless bantha fodder with the kind of face only the mother of a particularly grotesque rancor could find even remotely tolerable, a compliment.
He He said that.
No, of course not. I think you're a wonderful gentleman and a fine example of the Sith. I think it's the
I think he said you're a fine gentleman and an example of the Sith.
life of you making for the virtue references and see the normal mental health men will dance that.
Mental references and a bantha dancer?
He said he would be ready to throw down with you, but he doesn't think lily-livered blobs of jelly with the dueling prowess of a gonk droid and the kind of wit usually seen in creatures that live in trash compactors present much of a challenge.
You're calling me a Dianoga.
Me?
What is that?
I'd never do such a thing. Master Qui-Gon, on the other hand, sees you as far below even those
I
creatures.
simply don't think it's necessary to resort to violence when we could exchange some heartfelt compliments and walk away as friends. Perhaps thereafter we could regularly send further compliments to one another via holovid.
I say this with the greatest of love and respect, but Obi-Wan sometimes slightly misconstrues what I'm trying to say. What I
Yeah.
actually mean is this.
Oh, God damn it! Oh, of course he goes into nonsense speak. Oh, and according to above average gamers in the chat, it was, even though you are a Sith, you clearly take yourself very seriously, and as such, I would like to respond to your chivalry with a compliment in kind. Above average gaming, you are way beyond my ability to hear that, because I heard some of those words, but a lot of that was beyond me, which again was the point.
I want to kill you. In fact, to that, what we should do is put down our weapons, run surveillance, and see.
What?
Well, I think that was pretty clear. He said, I want to kill you, alongside a lot of hurtful racial remarks concerning Zabraks generally, and Dathomirian Knight Brothers specifically.
Oh, I'm being told by above average gaming what he just translated was only the bit of it, not even the first part. Oh my god. It was probably, I don't want to kill you, but then just, god damn it, Obi, god damn it. Oh, and yet somehow all of this kind of makes sense. Oh. I love this series. I really do. This, though, this is what I'm really looking forward to today. Like, anything involving Liam Neeson and his portrayal as Qui-Gon is awesome. Because oddly enough, now I think about it, that was the first time I saw him acting anywhere. Like, everyone else thinks of him from Taken, or now from the new Naked Gun series, which admittedly is an amazing movie, and he did a great job in. And surprisingly, him and Pamela Anderson had an amazing chemistry on set that was actually really funny. And you could tell that a lot of the time they were trying to make each other laugh. It's like they're dating or something. Oh, wait. But I still know him at first as Qui-Gon Jinn before anything else, and it's kind of weird seeing him anywhere else. Fun, though. Speaking of, this is where it gets good. I'm going to crap open a cold one. I just said crap open a cold one, didn't I? Diet soda. Not sponsored. Also, these are one of the cheapo brands that, oddly enough, actually taste good for diet, which is weird. I'll stick to that. Because caffeine.
Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
Oh. Give the child a light. Child need a light.
Apologies for scaring you there. I've misplaced my laser pointer,
Oh.
so I'm forced to...
He actually says Darth Academus. Delivered in memory of Master Mace Windu, who threw himself out of the building to escape this. I still fully believe they'll eventually come back and say Mace Windu survived. Yeah. Like if they ever just do a random show about the down, dirty, low side of Coruscant, which is admittedly terrifying, it'll be with him. And I look forward to that day. Also, it's a way to justify Mace Windu looking old as fuck. Because it's probably been way too long in universe.
use my lightsaber as an alternative. This is something of a breach of academic conduct, so I'm rather annoyed at myself. But I hope you can find it within yourselves to forgive.
Actually, no, it's not. There are a lot of professors who have laser pointers that are way too powerful and shine them on reflective surfaces. Like, seriously, they don't need a laser pointer that if they leave it in a single position for more than 5 seconds, leaves a mark on a screen. Yeah.
Give me. Regardless, the answer to your question is, of course, to learn. knowledge is power, and through self-improvement and personal cultivation, you can reach your perfected self.
Oh my
To
God, he's
confirm, Lord
actually...
Academus, your channel is broadcasting on all frequencies, both in our comms and throughout the building. Every clone and Jedi will hear you. I'm not sure this is entirely wise.
As requested, Lord Academus. I'm in the library. Signal's a bit rough, so my voice may not be as clear as my compatriots, but that means it should be easier to distinguish us. I'm super excited to do me some learning about the tragedy.
Bear in mind, Lord Academus, he was dropped on his head several times when he came out of the vats.
And might be one of the reasons he survives it. Also, is he the reason that only some people die because his connection is just bad enough that a few of them don't go crazy listening to Anakin talk? Yeah. Also, I don't know why you guys are all talking about Coruscant like that. It's definitely pronounced Coruscant.
In aid of that, I prepared a short lecture on the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Originally, the way the tragedy was introduced is through asking the other person if they've ever heard it. These days, however, it's only those who are very traditional, those who have a very rudimentary grasp of the tale.
And I love the irony of this. I absolutely love it. Because the initial joke with Palpatine is, you have no idea who you're talking with, who do you? Because it's his stories told specifically to Anakin. It's just the one stupid 2-minute conversation. But it's the entire overarching premise of this entire series, and I love it. That he's just digging at freaking Palpatine. And having also subjected Palpatine to it multiple times to the point where he's actually begged for mercy. Because anything that fucks over Palpatine is something I like. Oh my.
Or those who are a bit dim who introduce it like that, because, frankly, everyone has at least heard of it. Ironic, I suppose, that the very opening of the tale has become so ubiquitous as to render itself functionally dead.
Oddly enough, that's not even the first time that happens in writing. There's a lot of phrases and interesting starts that are so traditional that you never hear them anymore because it is too repetitive. The one that everyone will probably not even think about because it fits the trope too perfectly is once upon a time. You don't start a story with that way because it is so overused because it was so perfect for every narrative story for probably a good couple centuries. You know exactly what kind of story you have when you have that intro. It's also why you don't tell that, because if you do anything but that, it is going to be wrong and people will treat it as such. Ooh, also, one, I don't know why the names are broken. Oh, sup, Rube. Hello, Airier. Forgot you were continuing your subathon. Ah, yes, my sunbathing. Yes, as you can tell, okay, this might be weird, but for me, this actually is a tan. That's not a joke either. This is actually my tan. In 4 months, you will see what out a tan looks like. I'm told the phrase is disco ball. I'm not sure what they meant. And I hope I check out Tale Foundry. I very well might. Although I was also looking at Daz Tales and other things about Rainworld, so I'm not really sure if we'll get to that or not.
The very life of the tale is what killed some of it. Quite the dichotomy.
We've lost 30 troopers to suicide.
Of course,
Only.
it's this galaxy-wide knowledge and appreciation that led to a number of different schools of thought emerging to analyze the tragedy. Widely
Greatest short
acknowledged
story
to be
ever
perhaps
penned.
The greatest short story ever penned.
On the bright side, some Jedi have begun begging us for
Naturally, it would be very time-consuming to list every school of thought.
I want to find out if there's an actual count in universe of how many people were accidentally killed by Darth Academus trying to be helpful versus Palpatine's Order 66. And the number might actually be a lot higher on one side than the other, if you know what I mean.
Indeed, were I to do so, it would likely take up the entire day. To quote an old joke, if you took 10 scholars of the tragedy and put them in a room to argue it out, you could rest assured that you would end up with 15 different views by the end of the day.
Considering how many people have offered various opinions about the tragedy, unironically, as scholars of this series, it would probably be a higher number because we're how many videos in, and at least one clone trooper, Obi-Wan, who doesn't like to admit it, technically Mace Windu, and Anakin, so there's at least 4 so far. And probably Yoda, but he's so smashed on everything that he doesn't actually think about it anymore. Oh my god. The play button is not playing. That is weird. And the audio cut out.
End up with 15 different views by the end of the day.
Okay, no, it's still playing. I guess it's just a quiet section.
In academics.
Okay, I guess that audio just wasn't
often
that
gets
there.
a laugh in academic circles.
Oh, God damn it, sales are good. I thought my audio actually broke for a second. I was like, oh, shit, do I have to fix something? Am I getting scuff? No, he's literally waiting for a laugh line. And it falls flat. Also, if you've ever been to one of these conferences where people give these presentations, they do that. More often than not. Also, hey, Luna, sup? Thanks for dropping in. Also, Martin, Palpatine's Order 66 is just playing his lecture on repeat through the comms. That's the thing. I don't think Palpatine ordered that in this version because Skywalker explicitly said one of the Jedi has to go to the library and is broadcasting it everywhere. It's all Anakin who's doing it at this point.
It's also particularly amusing in its original Hatise, as there's more wordplay.
You certainly got a good chuckle out of everyone in the library.
Many clones have likewise been pleading for the sweet mercy of the eternal sleep. So the two groups are arguing over who should kill who.
Traditionally, there are 5 schools of thought as respects the tragedy. Though more recently, one of these schools has split.
Cowardly, really? Okay, this is actually kind of fascinating to me because they've actually gone out of the way to analyze it with actual... They even have a Gestalt analysis? Oh, wow. Paradoxical. Also, the tautological school examines the repetitious nature of the Darth Plagueis the Wise. Also, for anyone wondering, tautological means this is this because of this, such as an apple is an apple. A pear is a pear. It's basically the concept of 1 equals 1 as the basis of understanding, so you know what a number is to find by itself, which normally you don't do because it's not very elucidative. If you don't know what one is, you don't know what the other is. But it also helps establish that if I agree this is something and you agree this is something, 1 equals 1, so it's adding a baseline. But again, most people never actually get that far because it's literally more just along the lines of you kind of get that by understanding what word means. But if you're working from different languages, it actually is useful.
6, and of course, there is my own school of thought
Dichotomy.
to consider. Together, these schools represent appropriately 66% of all interpretations.
It's even an order of 66%, you could say.
These schools are as follows: the paradoxical or tautological school, the thanatonic or inevitability of death school, the treacherous, betrayal, or, in its less extreme readings, the chicanery school, the cowardly
Chicanery?
school, the folly school, the Gestalt school, the Skywalker or dichotomous school. The purpose of this...
Yeah, just... Oh, man. I wonder which one of these was Obi-Wan's version. I know they might have mentioned it, but in one of the previous episodes, Obi-Wan did have a conversation with the clone about how he was laughed out and wrote a self-help book or something along those lines that became a bestseller. The High Ground. Why you need it. Because Anakin forced him out of conversations about Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Session is to give you a basic understanding of each major school and ensure you have some grounding in the analysis of the tragedy. It should be noted that, given our time is short, and I must be brief,
Oh my
I will
God.
not be able to delve into the nuances.
I'm actually wondering what the full unironic breakdown of this would be. Because if Seals Are Good is going into this much detail to do this, there probably is an unironic full breakdown that they've written at this point. And I truly want it.
Instead, I'll go through each of the aforementioned schools
What would he do if he
briefly,
actually gave the
touching
full
upon
lecture?
their interpretation and
Wait, the 30-minute one that we're watching right now is the short, brief version. He gave Palpatine the full one like 5 times back to back. Oh, shit.
mentioning some of the foremost scholars. Bear in mind that the groupings are broad, and there are many scholars who have viewpoints spanning these schools or who adhere to the broad theme of their school while differing in the details. To quote the Jedi's very own Jocasta Nu when she was performing an analysis of the schools, the distinctions are clear at a distance, yet blurry close-up.
Oh, yeah, she's actually a real character who is the librarian in the actual Star Wars universe, whose power involves building badass fuck-off-all guns. Yeah, that's a specialty of hers that never came up in the movies. Doomsday hand-portable weapons. Yep. The expanded universe that Disney kept is weird.
Or perhaps she is merely long-sighted.
Left line?
Yes, probably best to hold in your laughter. As I
Yeah.
mentioned, we are short on time.
Jocasta is practically rolling on the floor. I don't think I've ever seen someone laugh so hard.
Clones have been trying to shoot one another. Jedi have been leaping in the way. Some of the more selfless have been deflecting the shots onto those around.
To dive in, let us start with the largest and most influential school, the Paradoxical School.
And here we have the
This
Obi-Wan school.
argues the tale is a work focusing on the repetitious nature of our lives, most famously articulated in Master Kenobi's work, The Tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Oh god, he's actually going to have a representative of each and every school of thought, isn't he? Please, please tell me one of them is going to be Qui-Gon Jinn, just for the irony of it.
Irony and paradoses. As a quick aside, I know paradoses isn't a real word, but Master Kenobi is very insistent on not using the term paradoxes.
I mean, they're speaking English. The one rule of thumb with English is, if you're darned fook dupe enough, it is correct. For example, if I said those words darned fook dupe enough times, coherently, and specifically spelled them in a way that made them a single word, and I did it consistently and convinced other people to do so, it is now, by the terms of the English language, the word that means exactly what I want it to mean. And that's not even the first time that's happened. Shakespeare bullshitted most of the words in the English language for a good portion of time. They weren't real words. He just made them up. There is a significant proportion of the entire language that is him bullshitting. And a lot of other people. A lot of it was him. Yeah.
He actually spent 3 pages arguing that paradoses is far superior a word for the plural of paradox than paradoxes. He very much likes to argue the point, and it's honestly quite exhausting, so I don't recommend bringing it up to him.
What the hell does it mean when Anakin gets exhausted by something? Oh, God.
Either way, Kenobi writes, Plagueis famously uses the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. Yet midichlorians are what allow for the use of the Force, and midichlorians themselves are required for life.
And that technically is canon, but also not canon in Star Wars because they can never seem to make up their mind depending on whoever's in charge of Star Wars at the time, or whoever's writing the script at the time, or whoever's the director at the time, or they forget and they use another one and they don't even realize because no one actually cares. Personally, I'm of the opinion that if midichlorians show a person's force potential because they gravitate towards it, cool. If midichlorians cause force potential, then you could just stuff a bunch of midichlorians into a machine and have a space magic droid and it works perfectly. Yeah.
Plagueis was, therefore, using midichlorians to influence midichlorians to create midichlorians. Perhaps he was wise, but he was also quite the tautologist.
Which brings you to the next one.
That gets me every time. As before, you'll forgive me if I don't stop for your laughter. We have a great deal of material to get through. Nonetheless, Master
Wendy, thanks
Kenobi's
for dropping
work is
in.
well known for its biting and oftentimes humorous critique of the finer points of the tale, and was until relatively recently regarded as the seminal work of the paradoxical school, and Kenobi himself the foremost scholar within the field. Of course, those who have read my work will doubtless be aware that I was able to highlight a number of flaws in Master Kenobi's work, but nonetheless, I strongly recommend reading him, both on the tale itself and more broadly, his other works. I'm told his latest piece, The High Ground, Moral and Physical, is quite the page-turner.
Oh my god, he's actually referencing the book. In one of the previous episodes, Obi-Wan was arguing with a clone about his work, The Moral High Ground, TM, and he was actually putting the TM at the end of it to indicate it was trademarked. Oh my god. And also, this is a joke for anyone who hasn't been in academia or in college, where there are tons of people who will overanalyze something because it makes them look good and they can make money selling bullshit about it. This is Obi-Wan. It's just grift at this point, but oh my god, I just love this, man, because it's so freaking accurate. I've seen this. I know these people.
However, to return to our topic, Master Kenobi argues within his work that the tragedy is, in fact, a metaphor for the repetition inherent within our day-to-day lives. Just as Plagueis used the midichlorians to influence midichlorians to create midichlorians, so do we wake up, work, eat, sleep, and repeat in an endless cycle. To Kenobi, the titular tragedy is the tragedy of all sapient beings, namely that we are gifted with the most important gift of all, life. But we're forced to waste so much of it repeating ourselves over and over. And it is the absence of new experiences that hastens our inevitable end. After all, who here remembers clearly waking, getting out of bed, showering, and coming to their workplace?
For those unfortunate few who do, I am so sorry.
All those precious moments we can never have again discarded by our minds, time slipping through our fingers. Quite tragic, really.
Orgrim the Stoic, the Jedi most famous for his detached demeanor. And
Oh god, they actually have one of the clones engaging with this, and this is the one who is talking about all of the other clones committing suicide because they're trying to escape this too. Oh my god.
the fact he once endured torture for over 4 weeks before even acknowledging his captors were in the room with him has just cut off his own ears and leapt out of the window.
Next up is the inevitable...
Never mind. Never mind. He was actually informing them of just how much he's doing it. And Niki's skin is melting. That's a common thing, yes. Oh my god, this guy. For anyone wondering what's about to happen, Kyle Mundi in the Seals Are Good universe is the greatest war criminal in the entire universe. It makes Palpatine look like a cute, cuddly bunny.
...ability of death, or the Thanatotic School, which, no one's surprised, I'm sure, argues that the story is actually about the fact death is inevitable, ever closing in on us, like a pride of soft-pawed Nexu.
I rather wish death would put on its running shoes, sir.
To quote Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, the eternal sleep will come for us all, whether by fire, disembowelment, or pure and simple torture, none can escape its cold grasp.
Which will usually be his if any of the stories they've told are accurate.
To this school,
oh god,
Plagueis
like the
is all
flamethrower
of us.
incident.
And at least in Master Mundi's interpretation, his power to keep the ones he cared about from dying was actually the ability we all have to stave off the infamous second death.
I'd be content to settle for just my first death.
This is naturally the notion that we all die twice. The first time is our actual death. The second time
you're
is
forgotten.
the last time anyone ever remembers us.
Which is actually a very classical way of thinking about death, specifically in the Grecian style, because their all concept was you needed to become famous and earn glory so that people would remember you and talk about you and write books about you, and you would be remembered forever, so you would never endure the second death, which was oblivion. This is not actually just a random concept that they had in the thing, but explicitly the reason for characters in their own fiction, such as Achilles in the Trojan War, for taking his action, for knowing he will die, knowing that he will not survive the war, but going anyways because he will earn glory and never face that second death. That is a very, very old school style of thinking, too, that does exist in reality. Also, Pilo, you mentioned Airier. Of course, I know these people. They're me! Because that's also the quote of... I don't know what you're talking about. Just because you're also talking about people who overanalyze things, and that's perfectly accurate to me, but also quoting Obi-Wan from the first Star Wars movie. I know it's for. I refuse to acknowledge that.
Or we fade into eternal nothingness. The irony for Mundi is that, though the death of Plagueis ensures the final deaths of those he cared about, he himself has been bought a reprieve by the proliferation of the tale throughout the galaxy.
Oh
Ironic indeed. As a quick aside, an interesting interpretation I read within this school by the scholar Ithiel Solaris positioned Plagueis not as a shadowy lord of the Sith, but rather as an academic supplanted by his pupil. After all, he taught him everything he knew, as academics teach their students, who then go on to metaphorically kill their teachers through proving their old theories incorrect.
which is even more ironic because in this instance, both are accurate to canon and the Seals Are Good universe, because Anakin was learning from someone who he said was the previous foremost scholar of the Darth Plagueis the Wise studies, and who later went on to prove him wrong and also kill him.
Perhaps refining their models or similar. It speaks to the old adage, academia advances one funeral at a time. This is perhaps my favorite interpretation within this school.
A number of Jedi in the library have gathered in the center. They're fiercely debating the Mundi, as compared to the Solaris Thanatonic view.
What is wrong with them?
The treacherous school is...
Oh god, they're actually getting together and arguing about this and surviving. And the non-crazy clone is actually disturbed. Like, more than all of the other Jedi and clones killing themselves to escape this, he's actually freaked out about them enjoying this. I think we're going to get our first instance of clone flat-out betrayal, because this is way more than Order 66, man. Like, brain chip, nothing. This is fried out already. We're just going to run, man.
in fact,
hey, Ollie, thanks for dropping in.
Paradoxical school. The reason for the split is most interesting and could itself very easily be a lecture, though we don't have time to get into that now.
Thank Force for small mercies.
For the purpose of this talk, the key thing to note is that those within this school highlight the treacherous nature of the Sith, and for the more cynical, the inherent selfishness present within virtually all beings, manifesting itself as the overriding need to survive and thrive.
We've taken roughly 50% casualties, sir.
Only?
No fighting has yet occurred.
Now, this may sound
No
reasonable
fighting.
to you, but the scholar Telutho Kaldrak highlights the potential dark turn this can take. They write, put a looming calamity in front of a being, and they may work to avoid it. Put that same looming calamity in front of a group of beings, and tell them they can avoid it, and perhaps they shall.
Or perhaps they'll attend your talk as ordered.
Put a looming calamity in front of a society of beings, and tell them they could avoid it, but add the caveat that it'll cause disproportionate pain, and you will have torn that society apart. They were, I think you'll agree, highlighting that beings will fight ferociously to maintain their own standard of living, even if doing so will doom others.
And thus you see the entire principle behind a lot of social constructs and why they defined a society as, fuck all y'all, we got ours. I'm heavily oversimplifying it, but also not by as much as I should.
To highlight another section from their work, for it is the urge to not merely survive, but to thrive in placing this concern above the lives of countless others that is the very view the tragedy is critiquing so powerfully.
Yeah. Oh, also, Wendy, you asked if the new movies are bad. You heard from a friend they completely ruined Star Wars. No, that would be the Star Wars Christmas special. That's the one I would advise not watching. That one is bad. The new ones, they're a 5. They're fine. If they're on, check them out. They're good. The Force Returns is actually a good movie, but nothing groundbreaking. It's basically a recap and redoing the first Star Wars movie, but it's perfectly fine. The second movie, it has some slow parts that are not worth it, and they focus a lot on trying to surprise the audience, but it's just cheap surprises that don't actually matter. So a lot of it is good for a single watch, and then you can disregard it and never think about it again. And the third movie, it had issues because there was multiple changes in staffing. So a lot of the ideas they had that were really good, they never actually used, and a lot of it had to be redone with very little time, and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But a lot of people were expecting Empire, specifically Empire Strikes Back level of good, because they had so much time and there were so many decades between Empire and now, and they also forget that prior to the new movies coming out, they also hated the newer old stuff, which was the prequels, which were fine. Like, some parts were boring, and like, honestly, I think Clone Wars was the weakest because the vast majority of it did not matter. It was just cool, and you got to see the world, but you didn't actually do anything about it. The Clone Wars TV series fleshed that out a lot more. But they're fine. If they're on, they're good. If you're a diehard fan who loves the old stuff, you might not like it, but honestly, if you haven't seen it before, they're fine. They're perfectly fine. The original 3 movies are probably the tightest narrative-wise, but they're fine for the new prequel, or the sequel, or the prequel. They're fine. There's really nothing wrong with them. there's things that could be better, and people say that that's a huge deal killer for Star Wars. No, the only one I would ever recommend not watching is literally the Star Wars Christmas special. That one is bad. That's just bad. That is not a 0. That is a do not watch this. It is just bad, and you should never acknowledge it exists, because the time you spend talking about, like I am doing right now, will cause you to feel physical pain. And yes, I am feeling pain talking about it. It does hurt. But I'm taking that on myself right now because it is worth warning someone not to ever see it. Don't. The rest, they're fine. Some are better than others, but don't watch. Just don't watch the Star Wars Christmas movie. It's really bad.
A very cynical viewpoint, and one I personally have my doubts
I actually
about.
forgot about the Aqualad
a highly
altogether.
influential voice within this field. Nonetheless, their argument later in the piece is most intriguing. The apprentice of Plagueis is unnamed because the apprentice is you. The apprentice is me, and the apprentice is any being.
Yes, the apprentice is definitely
the
you.
selfish urge that whispers for us to stab our coworker in the back for more credits. That tells us to spread rumors about another to reduce their standing and maybe increase our own. The apprentice is all of us who, once we have no further use for a person, a relationship, a position, we discarded or them violently and completely.
Shakti has fallen to the ground and isn't moving. I'm trying to check her pulse, but somehow her wrist keeps slipping out of my grip.
Jokast
And further going with the fact that no one can tell if Shakti has died or not for the 5th time just in this series alone.
Danu said Caldrag is a hack who couldn't analyze a piece of media if it were made of transparent steel, and the creator were next to them to provide insights.
Oh, damn. Also, I missed a chat from Pylo. He mentioned one more before I have to leave. Oh, I had it out, Pylo. Thanks for dropping in. On the concept of second death, I wonder how those Greek heroes would feel about the fact that selling shitty copper and saving customer complaints worked just as well. Honestly, considering how much there was in terms of trade between a lot of the Mediterranean adjacent countries, including the ancient Mycenaean Greece, which would have included the time period for the Trojan War, and the areas in what are now the Syrian, Middle Eastern areas, or I think it's closer to Iraq, where those areas were located, where the copper seller specifically was. I can't remember his name. Ben Sur? No, that's someone else. But that's probably where they got the idea from. Hell, it's also the reason the story of Gilgamesh is so famous. Not because it was the only story told, but because they were actually made to teach everything. The story of Gilgamesh was written everywhere by everyone to learn how to write. It was one of those things you saw everyone write, not just scholars. It wasn't a high literature piece. It was something that everyone had to learn. That's why there are so many fragments of it that have lasted so long, because what we have is tiny, but we're finding it in so many areas because they were found by everyone with many different levels of creation that, well, at least it's been heavily theorized. I think it might be confirmed that what it was looking at is the equivalent of going to a school and finding a primer on how to spell. Not quite the same, and it was probably a higher level, but it was the baseline of, you're going to learn this, and you don't have a choice in the matter. So yeah, that kind of worked. So yeah, they'd probably be okay by compared to the selling shitty copper thing, because it was framed as tricking a god. I'm not sure about the saving customer complaints, though. Oh, and Eddie, you mentioned money for ever giving, ever taken away. If internet historian or ish, 1,000 player civilization. Okay, Airier, that's right, I'm giving money. Oh yeah, the 1,000 player internet civilization. Is that the War or Peace thumbnail one? I know I've seen it before, but I'm not sure if I ever saw it. Oh, and Emma, you sent one gift membership. Thank you very much. And yeah, I did heavily weight memberships, so even though it's like 30 seconds for every $1 of super chat, a membership is like 5 minutes right there, which I think was abused yesterday to like churn out a couple hours.
This has caused some consternation, because a couple of Jedi here are real big fans of Caldrag.
Next is the Cowardly School, most famously espoused by...
And that's why they're going to be the Dark Acolytes, because they're fans of betrayal.
the late Master Windu, who tragically died of suicide for
Because he started teaching Anakin this by accident by talking about how Darth Plagueis was a cowardly-ass motherfucker. Oh my god, that actually is something they already talked about. I forgot about that.
reasons which just go to show how important mental health and personal study are. Indeed, it's in his name that I'm delivering this humble lecture. Doubtless, he'd be thrilled.
Yeah, Nasir, that's the one, Requiem. Thank you.
Master Windu's most well-known work on the tale were the famous lectures he gave very publicly, which may lead everyone here to question why I even need talk about it.
This is a question we're not so much asking as desperately pleading.
The answer is that I've recently met someone, and this is hard to believe, I know, who not only hadn't heard Master Windu's work, but hadn't even heard of the schools of thought on the tale.
That sounds like a glimpse into pure bliss.
Please tell me he's about to reference Palpatine, because that would be the funniest thing ever. I mean, he already's done it, so it probably wouldn't be, but it would still be the case.
Just decked another Jedi.
I won't name any names.
Goddamn!
But I don't want anyone
Oh, no,
to
it
think
was
this person
actually
an
Palpatine.
uneducated rube who'd be of more value recycled into protein chunks than to continue in his breathtaking ignorance.
I would be open.
Oh, wow. He's gone full Sith and gone full apprentice that he just outlined by talking about immediately saying he was useless. Oh my god. Looks like the Sith betrayal studies have gone accurate.
Into being recycled into protein.
Happily, I was able to recite my full thesis a couple of times, and this error has been corrected. Suffice to say, in the unthinkable possibility you've never heard Master Windu's interpretation, he argues the tale is in fact a commentary on the cowardly nature of the Sith. And the
Oh god. Also, Zero, you mentioned, question, why do you use taps if you could make the private playlist? Oh, tapes. He's probably asking about why I record things separately and then make private playlists. Mostly because YouTube I upload at maybe 1440, but my actual masters are on 4K. So when it's reduced down through editing compression, it looks better. And then when YouTube compresses it down to 1080p, it still looks better. Then when I just take 1080p the first time and the compression takes a much larger toll. Yeah, there's been some videos I put out that looked fine, and then I looked on YouTube, it's like, oh, it's like watching Minecraft. IRL. I don't like this. Yeah.
inherent failure of their order.
She's rolled up her sleeves and said, anyone who cites a pseudo-intellectual hack like Kaldrak is gonna catch these fists.
He points to the failure.
You know, I never actually said I would like this before, but if someone had an AI image of the freaking librarian decking students in the library, I would be all there for that.
Of Darth Bane, Darth Xana, Darth Cognis, and so on, to not only keep their rule of two secret, but to continually kill each other, not in single combat, but rather through subterfuge or other underhanded means.
Also, I'm being told that I completely misread Zero's comment. It wasn't about how I recorded and made things private. It was about why I had 1,000 various tabs open in this one of like a few windows. No reason. I just like it. Yeah. That's also why I don't group them up either. I just prefer it this way.
What, Master Windu asks, is the point of setting up a system wherein you're expected to overcome your master through sheer power, when every gravid, green, and tenebrous will simply ignore your, and I quote Master Windu here directly, dumb as rule. He argues, quite forcefully, the Sith are complete and total fug-ups who manage to be physically revolting and morally pathetic, insisting their power is what gives them the right to oppress others, only to backstab any threat they face like the slimiest woofa-worms, all while insisting their cowardice is actually intelligence.
Yeah.
Jedi Master has just given himself an impromptu lobotomy and is happily drooling on the floor. Several clones have begun screaming, "I wish that were me!"
Also, I will fully agree here. I think Windu's right about this one. Not just in this series, but this applied to Sith in general is pretty accurate. And anyone who actually thinks the Sith are right, I'm like, no, you haven't paid attention.
And have been smashing their heads against the wall repeatedly. The sound of screams and the crunch of bone echo throughout the halls.
Still, you gotta laugh.
Next, the Folly School,
I actually got a
Famously,
laugh out of that.
school of two halves.
I wish I were in two halves, sir.
So
Yeah.
good, sir. I persuaded Jocasta you quoted Kaldrak, ironically.
Indeed, some scholars
God,
within the
he's
school
helping.
have argued that they should, in fact, be split. But this is an item of some contention, and the debate rages on.
Ideally separated at the head and neck, but I'd settle for waist from torso.
Yeah, that is the Jedi way. Oh, also, Wendy, you asked, how do you get your cat to stop chewing on headphone cables? Get a cover. They're annoying, but they're not too expensive. The braided ones that come pre-cut are the best ones because they actually don't fray at the edges, but in a pinch, just get a braided cover. It's the best you're going to do. They're not perfect, but at least it keeps them down.
Provided I would drop down a bottomless pit to ensure my death.
You doing all right there,
For
bro?
myself,
No.
I believe the two are so entirely distinct as to be well deserving of becoming
He's
two
just
separate
getting
schools.
the,
But, alas,
Jedi
despite their
treatment.
clear differences, which will be articulated shortly, they remain, at present, united. The two halves are, of course, the Hutt view and the non-Hutt view, though we should note that many scholars who argue for the Hutt view are not themselves Hutts, and vice versa. Now, broadly speaking, the Folly School covers the notion that Plagueis, frankly, was a fool who missed out on the ability to utilize his unprecedented gift to ensure personal wealth, power, and prestige. After all, would not eternal life be the greatest, most profitable gift of all?
I don't know, sir. Death certainly has its appeal.
However, Plagueis failed to utilize his astonishing power and instead ended up dead himself. His gift not only failed to give him riches, but failed to preserve that greatest rich of all, his own life.
My life at the moment feels more like an unspeakable curse. Or perhaps an overspeaking curse.
The Hutt thinker, Laka, who, as is traditional for Hutts in academia, enjoys switching specialty every few decades, was the one who provides perhaps the most well-known non-Hutt interpretation of the Folly School. To quote the being himself,
Honestly, I do like that they're talking about the Hutts just because they're one of the factions in Star Wars that are kind of interesting. Only kind of, though, because they flesh them out, but they're always going to default to evil and greed. But every now and again, you get one that's not, and it's like, oh, shit, they should do something. But again, it's always in the form of a story where it's like, we're not going to show them on screen. Mostly because I think those are very annoying sets to use or to animate, so yeah. But they're such an interesting, well, iconic race in Star Wars at this point. And Ra came at the best and worst time. Yeah, I think we've all heard that one before. Oh, you meant in the video, sorry.
Plagueis was, fundamentally, a man who repeatedly and continually threw away his potential. He could save others from death, yet we learn of none who this supposed could was actualized for. He taught his apprentice everything he knew, and thus rendered himself vulnerable.
Yep.
And in the end, he was killed in his sleep without even lifting a finger to defend himself. Every action in the tale from beginning to end is mistake after mistake. He makes himself redundant while leaving himself mortal. Put simply, had he the material, real-world power, his preservation, and thusly his implied quest to accumulate knowledge of the Force would have been assured. He didn't, couldn't, and thus became isn't.
I've just checked my biological age, sir. I was 27 when I walked in here. I'm now 105.
Still.
Yeah, that basically is what college feels like. Also, Wendy, you asked, you're thinking about buying a cable for the cat to chew on. Don't do that. It reinforces that cables are something to be chewed on and they will actually try harder. Instead, get a chew toy, specifically a small dog chew toy that they can still get into, but then slightly up the size until they stop chewing on it. That will help a little. Or just get a kick toy that they can bite into and scratch and go to town on, because that's usually a little easier for them to deal with.
8 decades in exchange for a grounding in the tragedy. Some would say it was well worth it.
Yeah, but the asylum doesn't usually let them out at this
The
end.
Hutt view, meanwhile, uses the Hutt spirit of Kajadich, which is a word that essentially translates to, someone's gotta have it. Why not us? Now, here, we need to speak carefully.
Or we could even stop
God.
speaking entirely.
As this term is regarded by some Hutts to be fundamentally speciesist, with some arguing that it relates specifically to Hutt gangsters and criminal organizations rather than Hutts within academia, and the use of it continues the stereotype that all Hutts are, at their core, criminals, violent or otherwise dangerous.
My last
I mean, all of the Hutts kind of are. people are arguing about the one in the Old Republic game who's good. Yeah, and I think in the expanded lore, they said he eventually went Sith later. Unless I'm thinking of a different Hutt Jedi, which is entirely possible.
Last girlfriend was a Hutt.
What?
He had a
Equally,
girlfriend?
there are those who seek to reclaim the word and use it as a celebration of Hutt culture, arguing that only through using it in a context outside the criminal can both the word and the Hutts broadly no longer be always seen in a negative light. This is, naturally, a mere aside, though very interesting. And we...
So, Kajidik is literally the Hutt equivalent of the N-word. Okay. That is a thing.
We should note, Hutt scholars have written to argue for other schools of thought as well. In fact, Locke famously has argued for and against every major school within the context of the tragedy. I myself was thrilled when Locke argued for and against my own school relatively recently. It was a personal milestone.
Oh, right.
Oh,
You mean
God.
she was fat.
Nah, man. I mean, she was a straight-up Hutt.
As in, metaphorically?
Nah, as in she was literally a Hutt, like the species.
Scholars argue that the spirit of Kajdic is fundamentally lacking in the tale.
I'm getting way more involved in the random dropped on his head trooper having a hot girlfriend than I have any right to be.
With the absence argued to itself, the tragedy spoken of within the title. To quote the scholar Beldorian, Plagueis was fundamentally unable to grasp the absurd power and wealth at his fingertips he had, but he did not truly possess. And because of that, others were the ones to take his life and possess his power instead. Proponents of this view typically argue the apprentice is, in fact, the spirit of Khajiit, punishing Plagueis for his consummate failure. Interestingly, in Hutt space, many Huttlets are told the tale as a warning of what will happen to them if they fail to grow up with the appropriate sense of Khajiit, perhaps an interesting cultural example of Hutt society utilizing their own innate tendency toward paranoia as a social propagation.
Aren't they like hermaphrodites?
Nah, bro.
Don't call me bro.
That's just a legend. In actual...
There what? That makes sense. Also, Zero, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, man. But also, Zero, seriously, you literally are probably half, if not more, than the reason this subathon is still going on. You can stop whenever you want, man, because it's probably super expensive. Don't push yourself.
In reality, there are male and female Hutts. You can easily tell by their curves.
What?
Hutts are all curved.
The penultimate school I'd like to cover today is the Gestalt School, which deals with what some in that school pejoratively call isolated minds, but more properly are silo minds. It is this group which find this school hardest to grapple with. I don't see any beings who are hive minds amongst us, though some have argued all those attuned to the Force are themselves within a hive mind of a certain kind.
Considering battle meditation is literally a sort of hive mind, that is not even an entirely incorrect way to perceive it. I'm actually surprised it hasn't been further used that way by either Disney or Lucasfilms when they were the owners.
So perhaps for us, it'll be easier to understand than for most. Nonetheless, those in this school argue the tale is a fundamental communication of what hive minds term maplos, the sense of isolation or fundamental loneliness silo minds experience.
Were you forced into this relationship? Did the Hutts kidnap your family?
We are one another's family, bro.
I'm just
He's
trying to
in a
understand why you would
relationship.
do that to
To
yourself.
briefly explain, a fundamental problem that
Oh, because they're clones. They're all family, yeah.
silo mind philosophy discusses, but hive mind philosophy doesn't,
Oh
is
my
that of the
God.
problem of other minds. The issue that we can never truly be sure other minds exist, as the only ones we experience are our own. Hive minds, on the other hand, are able to sense the fact that other minds exist, and they can freely commune with them. This problem, therefore, is not one that truly exists in their own societies, though there are vague equivalents depending on the exact type of hive mind. For example, if the beings are merely telepathically linked, but are otherwise independent, or if they're like Bilar, whose minds pool as more and more gather. As a quick aside, legends tell of societies with natural telepaths such as the Iktachi who likewise lack this problem. However, scholars have been unable to confirm whether these natural telepaths, outside the use of the Force, even exist. And
I have no idea about that species, and I'm hoping it's a real one, but I also don't want to look it up because I would go down a rabbit hole. It's like when you go on Wikipedia for some random little thing, and then suddenly it's 3 days later and you realize you've been going through an entire diatribe someone wrote and then rewrote in the comments section because apparently they had it, but they never removed it. And you're not entirely sure it's a comment section. You just clicked off at some point, and now you're on dissertation of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Oh, that's how I got here. Yeah, don't do that to yourself.
Naturally, once hive minds met silo minds, they learned the concept. But we are speaking to their tradition. Either way, Maplos is the term hive minds ascribe to the silo minds' inability to determine whether others truly exist as independent, fully formed beings or as essentially automatons. Isolated minds sprang from this view, with the notion being that silo minds are fundamentally deeply alone and will always and forever be isolated. Certain hive minds use the would-be aphorism, "We all die alone," as evidence of Maplos. The phrase is, of course, common amongst silo mind peoples, but wholly alien to a hive mind. Scholars in this school, most famously the controversial collective Dilthric, argue the tragedy.
I know that's a reference to something, and I think I've been told that a lot of these do have references down here. Oh God, the voice AI division. Let's see. Nope, there's no crediting here. I've been told sometimes Seals Are Good does show who the various thinkers they're talking about or referring to are, but I don't remember who that is. Also, Martin mentioned, how long is this? I can feel my body descending to decrepitude. We're nearly done. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything about jumping out a window just yet. And Valerian, you get into rabbit holes? Me? I know. I never would do that. That would be the least favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Tragedy is the tragedy of all silo minds. I should note he uses the less favorable term for silo minds, but in the interest of decorum, I shall refrain. Time and again, he and himself are used, like pitiful gasps from a collective which has suffered a catastrophic loss of drones. The pathetic cries for help are all the more desperate the further we read into the tale, for the true tragedy is the inability of silo minds to even fathom the absence, in their experience, the tale exemplifies. For Dilthric, then, Plagueis is the average silo mind, isolated and alone. The tale is, as they read it, a scathing satire by a brilliant hive mind lampooning silo minds.
You're kinda hostile, bro. Are you one of those no interspecies dating people?
I'm sorry. I'm not sure which part is funnier. Just Anakin going Darth Academus in the extreme. Or maybe the entire clone plotline in the background about how the crazy one who's been dropped on the head and it's like, yeah, this is kind of fun. It's just going and breaking everything you could possibly imagine about a clone. Oh, God. Or just not getting anywhere near a hut in general.
I mean, it's a hut, for force's sake. How in the galaxy does that work?
All in the legs, bro. If a hut lady is into humanoids, they love toned legs. Makes them go wild. I guess it's like a novelty thing. Unless you mean, how do you get intimate with a lady hut?
I think I'm going to be sick.
Final school is naturally...
And now we know how he survives, because he will be focusing on the thesis to save himself from the thought of hut interchange.
Personal
hey,
favorite.
Cosmic, what's up, man?
The Skywalkerian School, also now famously
Skywalker. No, please don't call it that.
known as the Dichotomous School. Allegedly, this term sprung out of my apparent favor for the word dichotomy within the context of my thesis. This isn't something I agree with per se, but I think when your work reaches a level of renown such that it receives a nickname you haven't devised, that is itself a mark of affection.
Or a desperate plea for mercy.
Sorry, man. I shouldn't have assumed. But yeah, I'm not sure how to go about picking up hut dudes.
That wasn't... Look, can we drop this?
I see. You're more of a Wookiee man.
Now, my school of thought focuses on the meta-narrative, which, prior to my thesis,
I love this.
was an area which was fundamentally unexplored within the broader literature of the tale. My thesis, simply put, argued the tragedy was intended to lure the listener to the dark side of the Force, likely as a puzzle piece in a much grander strategy to do so. The lines of evidence for my viewpoint are multifaceted and complex, with my thesis, more appropriately, fleshing it out and requiring approximately 2 hours to do so.
So everything we had right here wasn't an introduction to his thesis. It was a breakdown of everyone else's. Oh my God, I love this. So his entire thesis is 2 hours long, and we're only getting it within the last 3.5 minutes.
With an additional half an hour to discuss the interesting side tangent.
2.5.
I will offer a necessarily simplified view here, and when you have listened and doubtless want more, you can go on the Holonet to purchase a copy of my thesis.
It's
To
for sale.
continue, the tale is often introduced with the question, did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? With the expectation the listener will answer in the negative.
Oh God. Also, Ed, ready. Oh, I just remembered. Gigook made an anime you should watch. I do know about that one. It's Bond. I haven't checked it out. I know it's a pretty short film, but I'm not entirely sure about checking out because since that's an official work he did, I'm not sure what his stance on is reaction-wise. Glitch is fine with it, which is why I'll check out Murder Drones and everything new they do in like Knights of Guinevere, but I haven't checked out his stance yet. Fan-created stuff I'm more usually okay with checking out, though. And Raw, ooh, thank you as well. And which school of thought do you think I agree with? I am a Windu guy myself. Honestly, I mean, we know Anakin's right because of outside knowledge, but also I would agree with Windu in general because he's completely right. And we got Reckham going, they prefer the dichotomous school. Oh, and according to Hera, in Legends, Hutts were actually hermaphroditic. Huh. Really? Cool. And Disney retconned that? Honestly, I couldn't tell. Mostly because they're kind of just treated as the, hey, we got assholes here. Yeah. Also, they explicitly treated Jabba the Hutt as a male, considering what they dressed Leia in, so... yeah.
Yet, prior to the publication of my thesis, no one had ever truly asked why this was.
You like the fur to have something to hold on to, right?
Do I look like Yoda?
I wish I were into
Oh, God! I'm sorry, that just sudden shout of, do I look like Yoda? Get along well with the Wookiees, he does.
it would make cruising for chicks easier.
My interpretation was, given we knew the tragedy was a tightly penned story with not a word wasted, the answer was in the text. Darth Plagueis was a Sith Lord, and therefore beholden to the rule of two. He was murdered by his apprentice, who would therefore become the master. The question naturally arises. How would this figure then get their own apprentice? The answer was simple. The Jedi. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you, because the listener would themselves be a Jedi. Have a loved one they wanted to save from death, but be unable to act, because the Jedi would not approve of their having a loved one they wanted to save.
Yeah. Except the big change in this one is the Jedi talk about this way too much and really wish they would stop.
The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise hints at the possibility of saving one's loved ones from certain death. The apprentice of the tale learned everything Plagueis knew, after all.
You practically have to bring a star cruiser when picking up hut girls. You have to break out a tractor beam, if you catch my drift.
Please, stop talking!
Hey, man, I listen to you talking about how you like to pick up Wookiee girls.
Therefore, in telling the tale, the apprentice was dangling the prospect of the listener joining the dark side. The apprentice need only bait the hook, perhaps through threatening the loved ones of the listener, whether that be in the form of physical threats or even through more esoteric means such as through the use of influencing premonitions or threatening the academic career of the loved one. Thus does everything fall neatly into place. The richness...
Wait, did someone threaten Padme's academic career in this? Because I did not notice that. That'd be awesome as far as I'm concerned. Because she's also the kind of insane in this version who did want to talk about Darth Plagueis the Wise.
of a subtextual narrative, when viewed through such a lens, is something to behold. Indeed, the very start of the traditional reading, "Did you ever hear?" inherently invites audience participation, and the use of the language, "killed him in his sleep," rather than murdered or assassinated, paired with the term ironic, with the recounting of Plagueis' ability to save others from death, but not himself, suggests a wry amusement as respects the latter, and a distancing of the act for the former. If the apprentice were the one speaking...
Also, I just need to point out how horrible this is right now. We have only had Cosmic Void in the chat for a few minutes, and already he's straight up saying his rotted his brain has become because he enjoys listening to Anakin, and he's going to the layers of hell. It's going to be great. For anyone wondering, Cosmic is currently working on an entire breakdown of the Coffin of Lele and Andy, or Andy and Lele. I'm probably butchering the name. I'm fine with that at this point. I'm looking forward to seeing that level of masochism when it's finally done.
Both would make sense. A quiet, sadistic joy in their act of murder, paired with a desire for the listener not to view them in as harsh a light through the careful control displayed in the use of the language.
Oh, I don't like force-damned Wookiees!
Hey man, I get it. Breakups can be rough. But there's plenty more Wookiees in the Grove, right?
This view would naturally make the tragedy a mythologized recounting of real-world events from the apprentice's life.
God.
Naturally, this raises further questions.
Who the apprentice is?
But, alas, we do
Why
not
they started
have all
talking about
day, and therefore, I shall close out my talk. For those who are curious
is the
about
Anakin
this
TED
or
Talk.
indeed would like a more in-depth exploration of the schools discussed here, then you really should purchase my thesis, or else seek out the talk once I upload it. Either way,
And thus we find out how the entire Order 66 comes to bear. Either Palpatine buys free copies for everyone, or Anakin accidentally makes it free and sends a copy to everyone.
thank you all for listening. Are there any questions?
I'm surprised they didn't put blaster shots in there.
Oh, the younglings all killed themselves.
He actually recognized that. And of course, the one clone survives because he's distracted by the hut lover. And his love of Wookiees. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm sorry. Just that actually just that was perfect, man. Okay. As you can tell, I might have enjoyed that just a little bit. Just a wee bit. So if you haven't already, there's a link below to the original video. Go hit it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.